the Tobagos. We growing like fresh tomatoes. Them boys on fire, too fuego. We pass it round hot potato. Everything is nuevo. I'm with my sweetie like Quavo. Need my cheese, need that queso. Need my bread, need that bankroll. Wake up, yes, Lord, I'm thankful. Another day on my schedule. Steady blocking the devil. I tell a hater, God bless you. Cherish moments that's special. You gotta keep the memento. If you love me, then I love you, and I could never forget you. Some memories don't fade. Sometimes you miss the old days, but nothing changed lets you change what's around you. How you.
Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Two Black Authors. I'm Rev Skip, and this is my brother Monk, and I just heard something that just blew me away, and it's something that we're going to start off this morning in this space, talking about what happened last night. I got to turn this over to my brother Monk. Can you let our viewers know if they haven't heard?
Well, yeah. So this morning I woke up to seeing this story that 2 people were killed and 4 people were shot at the protest, wherever that is, for the killing of like they got shot in the back 7 times by the cops.
Right.
And I started watching the story a little bit more, and I started paying attention to what was going on. And this young, I think he was a 17-year-old boy, had an AR-15 type weapon, and he showed up at the protest. And you know what? You can even call it, let's call it a riot for those that want to justify what happened. You know what I'm saying? So he shows up there fully armed. First of all, he had a meeting. There's a video of him talking to the police before this even happened, which just blows my mind. Like they thanked him for being there before all this happened. And that's on videotape. So the next clip, it goes to him standing next to someone that's shot. Now, I don't know what race of the people that were shot, but the people that were shot were there protesting the treatment of Black people. So it's irrelevant, in my opinion. So the camera is on him. He's standing there with his gun on the phone now, person on the ground. He takes off and starts running. The next clip, it shows him stumbling, falling down. People are saying, trying to follow him, saying he killed somebody, He stumbles down. And when he stumbles down, he whips his gun around and starts firing at everybody. So he shoots him. You see another person go down. He stands up. He's still firing his gun, and then he walks off. The police are coming towards him, and he just walks right by them. They don't do anything. They don't put him in handcuffs. They just let him walk by. They've already had a meeting with this dude. They know who this young man is. So I just woke up like people are really, really lost. They don't even know who they are. When you don't know who you are, you have this story that's been created for you, and you're living this story out. It's almost like a movie, right? This belief system was given to you. This young man came from another city to come to this place.
Yeah.
So he wasn't coming there for anything good. Obviously, it didn't have nothing to do with you. For those that want to justify saying he was protecting his property, he was protecting his city, he wasn't even from there. He just came there to be a part of this with his gun, to show power, to show dominance, whatever he came there for. It wasn't for anything good, right? Yeah. So it's so frustrating to me when I know we are loved, and I know that we're all connected at the deepest levels.
Yeah.
For us to be so lost and to identify whatever story we have, so we can really treat people and have no feelings for what we do to people. Like we can treat people like dirt on the ground, because that's what our story tells us to do.
Yes.
And when you really know yourself, when you really know who you are, you don't treat even people that are doing terrible things. You still don't treat them like that, right?
And there is a heaviness there too, brother, because I've been listening to Michelle Obama's podcast on Spotify, and she talked about how she was feeling this low grade little energy of depression around not just what's happening, but just how racism has come into our administration, into America with COVID. And I heard it and I went, that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling this low grade depression, and it's heavy. I'm inspired, but it's heavy. And, this, and we got to know what's going on. We have to.
I'm going to give you an example of where we're at. So I posted something with Doc Rivers had posted on his post game interview. He's a coach.
Mm-hmm.
He said he started off by talking about the Republican whatever their
The RNC.
the thing they got going on right
the RNC, the thing we can call the thing.
Right. I don't watch either one of them. Right. I don't watch either one of them. I think America's never had our back ever in the country ever. Yeah. Republican, Democrat, whatever. The same things are still happening to us. That's always happened to us. Okay. So he started talking, and he started off by talking about the RNC or whatever. That wasn't the point. He got to the point. The point was the fear that's being stoked, the gasoline that's being poured on the fire, the wanting to create this racism to bring it up, right? How Trump does, how to pit people against each other. And he's talking about the fear that he's pushing, and he's trying to get his base scared. Mm-hmm. And he basically said, why are you guys falling for this fear? We are the ones being shot. We are the ones being lynched. We are the ones being treated a certain way in this country. Mm-hmm. We give love to this country, and we never received love back.
Yeah.
This is what he said. This was his point. So somebody that never jumps on and leaves a comment on my stuff jumps on and starts talking about Clinton in the prison, missing the entire point. We've always been treated like this. Yeah. That's the point. We give ourselves to this country over and over and over and over, do amazing things for this country, and we always get no love back. Yeah. That's the point.
That is the point. And that's the point that I when we started the show, we wanted to have a voice and saying, if you're not going to listen to us, we're going to say it anyway. I had someone come up to me and said to me, you know, as long as you guys keep talking about our show, because, you know, we've been trolled, and I got, you know, people saying, as long as you keep talking about racism, it's always going to happen. And I said, I'm going to talk about racism until it doesn't happen. I'm going to talk about this. It was so funny because I set the intention. We're like, oh, this is going to be the book show, how books inspire, what's happening. And if it comes up, it comes up. Shit came up. And thank you, because we still need to talk about this.
I got one more example.
Yes, sir.
Bring it. I posted something that was talking about, they got these random people and they were asking them, you know, when was America great? So you had people going back to the 1940s. You had people going back to the 1950s. You had people saying America was great as soon as we signed the Declaration of Independence, right? So this is how disconnected we are. You take in mind nobody else's experience in this country, right? So you're saying America was great in the 1700s. We were enslaved at that time. So we don't even identify with the other person's struggle. And that's the problem. And that's why they always want to justify stuff, because it's not their struggle, right? So America was great in 1776. America was great in the 40s. We couldn't vote. We were still with Jim Crow. America was great then to who? Who was it great for? Yeah. You know, I always give the analogy of a house pet and a slaughter animal. If you ask them, how is it being an animal? How is it being an animal? What's your experience being an animal? They're going to have two different stories. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
No one wants to acknowledge this story. And that's why we're having this discussion right now, because America does not want to acknowledge the horrible things they've done. They still don't to this day. It's still get over it. It's still, well, if he wouldn't have resisted, it's still, well, that's not everybody. It's never changed.
Yeah.
They will not come to terms with the bullshit that they have put on us forever in America.
I feel you, brother. I feel you in my heart today. And before we got on, we're in the backstage of the virtual studio that we're in, and I just felt you. I said, something's up here, and I had to go, what's going on? What's happening? And I just reached out to you, and you let me know, because I had not done any social media, didn't look at anything. And I'm so glad you brought this to light, because we need to hear this. We need to hear this. We need to have this conversation of why is it still important for us to talk about this? One of my biggest fears, and before we bring our guests on, I can say this, is that I'm seeing that this lull and this is okayness, and we're kind of going back to trying to get back to business as normal. And I'm going, what? This is not a time to go back to how things was, because this is the changing moment. I believe, and I was saying this to Denise, one of our guests today, I believe that this is the moment that we are either going to break through or we're going to destroy ourselves. That's the truth, brother. We're either going to break through or we're going to destroy, and not just in America, but globally. This is something that we got to take for real. Everything that we are experiencing right now, what I experience with you and what you experience with me and what we experience across the pond and what we experience, we're a collective. We're a collective, and we're all experiencing that grief.
It's so frustrating to me
Yeah.
because I know who I am.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
Right? We know who they are.
Yeah.
But they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Where's the love? Where's the compassion? Where's the empathy for people that have different experiences as you? You know what I'm saying? You don't know somebody else's story. But if you don't want to know somebody else's story, we're never going to get past that.
Yeah.
When other people's story are not valid to you, we're never going to get past that.
Yeah.
Why can't we come together as one? Why can't we? Because we're all to our stories.
And my point here, before we bring our guests in, that every voice is a unique expression of the one. So we have to allow us to say what we need to say as a unique expression of our oneness. Like having the freedom to go, I am tired of Black men and Black women being shot in the streets. And I am free to say that. But I have not always given myself permission until we established a show of what Two Black Authors is all about. I never had the freedom to say this. I never had the freedom to say that I love my Black people when I didn't even know what love was. And so this is, it's time that let's have that space and the freedom to have that discussion. So thank you, my brother. Thank you. You're just, you know what? I just got to bring in Denise. I got to bring in Sovel right away, because these are two women that I love so much, and powerful artists and authors and poets, and this discussion. Wow, it took an absolute turn. And when we were praying in, I heard Spirit saying, "Get out of the way. Something else is going to happen." And that was the prayer. And I didn't know that we were going to go there. So I just want to welcome Denise James. And I want to welcome in Sovel Cunningham. And I always mess up the name, but it's okay. You know the love I have for y'all. Thank you. And welcome to the show. Welcome to Two Black Authors. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Skip. Thank you for the invite. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Sovel?
Thank you so much for the invite as well. Like Denise said, it's wonderful to be here. Yes, we're thousands of miles away, but we're still here connecting, and it's wonderful. Thank you.
It's funny because we can call this 4 Black Authors today. We really can. We really can. But Denise, instead of me doing the intro I had planned, I'm just going to tell us a little bit about yourself and about your mission, because you work with people who've had trauma. And I believe that we are dealing with some serious trauma right now, trauma that we have not been able to release. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'm a psychotherapist, and I work with people who's experienced all kind of life events, and behaviors, or all kinds of conditions. Oftentimes at the heart of those is that experience of trauma, especially childhood trauma, in all its forms. So a lot of the work involves trauma and recovery, and however much as possible, helping the person to start from where they are and to create something new, whilst at the same time healing all that has gone before. So it's almost a self-transformation. And I think that's something that we're all being called to at this time. Everybody, without question, whether you've identified yourself as someone who's been through something or not. The world is sick. That means we are. So we all need to look in the mirror and take inventory, take self-inventory, and open ourselves up and out. Whatever happens to the individual happens to the whole group. Whatever happens to the whole group happens to the individual. We're all human beings on the one earth. You know, what's happening over there impacts us over here. There's no separation. I myself don't know how people don't get this. That's an aside, because I'm pretty fired up by what Monk has shared, because I wasn't that updated on the subject, on the matter, at the developments of what's happening. But yeah, but my work is from my own experience and my own journey of recovery and self-transformation, and allowing myself to have a voice and be that difference in my family, in my community, in the world. A responsibility that I don't take lightly. In my work, I just help people to arrive at that same place as well, and with that same feeling and that same passion.
And you have
that
a book
power.
coming out. You have a book coming out. I just want to throw up this right now. This book, it's about emerging proud through trauma and abuse. Is that what you think that's happening right now? These stories are so important, because I've heard you talk about trauma before, and I believe that we're in the midst of experiencing this and moving through this.
Yes. So that book was that a piece of my writing is published in that book that comes from my blog. It's already been out. It's published by a mental health movement called Emerging Proud, with a mission statement similar to that guy's house. But my journey comes from the recovery from trauma as well. But yes, absolutely, what's happening racially at the moment, it is a trauma. We were still in it, you know, and like it's almost a complex trauma now. And this is what happens when people experience personal trauma upon trauma upon trauma. Complex trauma takes more effort and energy and power to recover from, because what I'm calling it complex now, it's on top of it, one trauma after the other. It's complex, you know. You're not finished healing and moving on from one, and then another happens. And trauma recovers deep understanding and healing, and a lot of people in different sections of the world and different fields in the world have to take a responsibility. And that's why I go back to that, starting with the self as well. It's not that you do something over there at work and then you're completely and examined in your life, but somehow you're perpetrating.
Right.
You know? So yes, we're in trauma, and I've just been impacted again.
You know what? You're so right. Skip, I didn't even tell you this. Tammy woke up early in the morning and just woke up crying because of this situation. Like, she couldn't even go back to sleep. And it's because everything is getting stacked. Every time you think we're moving in a different direction, it's bam, bam, take this. You still don't matter. Bam. And we're still not going to arrest anybody. Bam. Over and over and over.
Exactly. And that's one of the symptoms of trauma. When someone's experienced trauma, your sleep's impacted.
Yeah.
You can't sleep properly. You can't relax. You know, you're in this constant state of hypervigilance. What's next?
Yeah.
You know, and people are going to either use this time and wake up, or go and numb, because that's another way to
numbing out.
Numb out.
Numb out.
So you take your substance, you do this, you do that, but you just avoid the topic completely as far as you can. Anyway, Black people can't even numb out too much. I have 2 sons, grown men, and grandsons coming up. So every bit of this kind of news, and it's happening. It happened in the States, but it could have been just happening in my yard, as they would say in America. It feels like it's happening in my yard, and I always want to feel like that.
And so I want to do a big shout out about that. You're talking about numbing out. Big shout out to Monk, who 12 years of being absolutely clear-headed, my brother, is amazing. 12 years of sobriety and not numbing out through this, because not a lot of Black people, I gotta say, I know the ones I've talked to said, yeah, you know what, I got my Hennessy on during out this. And not going through this and not numbing out, my brother, thank you for being an inspiration.
Thank you. I mean, I really believe through my meditation process that it was removed permanently from me. So anytime I have a something hard comes up, it doesn't even cross my mind, right? I think that's why a lot of times in rehab it doesn't work. They haven't got to the issue of why they're drinking. They're just forcing a stop. And when you force a stop, it's going to build pressure. And then when life circumstance happens, it's going to break like a dam, and you're going to fall right back off, right? So
and that's an example of the importance of self-transformation. So no matter what happens, you're still woke.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like it was another lifetime. I feel like I really have been born again. Like moves I used to, all my default moves are not there anymore. They're different now. You know what I'm saying? My default move back then was to go drink, or to go find a new relationship, or to be or to
numbing out.
We're going to hear more about that in the addiction show that's coming up in a couple of weeks, because we really want to talk about this, because we both have dealt with our own addictions. But I got to bring in Sovel into this conversation. Hello, my sister. This is beautiful, and I just want people to know who you are, my poet. And I've been I've actually been reading Toni Morrison quite a bit this time in this shutdown, and she's such a poet. But I just want to welcome you to the show. Thank you for being here, and thank you for just saying yes to telling us about your experience as a poet. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll talk a little bit about your book as well.
So my story started, I suppose, when I was about 8 years old, and my mother had come in from work and she was crying, and it turned out she'd been dismissed from work for speaking the truth. And at that age, I said to myself, when I grow up, I'll ensure that no one gets dismissed from work for speaking the truth. Didn't know what that meant. But years later, I found myself working in human resources and helping people to grow and develop within the workplace. And unfortunately, yes, people being dismissed from work for speaking the truth. But that was more to do with the intention behind it, because some people can speak the truth, and it's very much the intention behind it. And from doing the work in HR and helping other people and having my own voice in a very, I suppose, complex environment, I started poetry started to come out of me. It literally was, I was able to, but the poetry came out in the letters that I was writing to people. So even when someone was, for example, being dismissed, or employment was being confirmed, or there's a letter of concern, there was a voice behind those words. And I noticed this, and I thought to myself, this must be my true voice that's coming through. And people would say to me, Sovel, your letters are poetic. And that, for a HR person, that's very different. But that helped me to grow as a person. So my vision in life was for people to speak the truth, but it was more so my own vision was to speak the truth and also hold myself with my true voice as well. So from that, the poem started coming through me, and then the book started coming through me as well.
So here's the book, and it's on Amazon now, y'all. So get it. Tell us a little bit about this book. And I'm interested in the name, because I heard a little bit about it when That Guy's House did your book launch. We heard about the name of it and why it came through that name. But I would love for you to tell our listeners and our viewers about the book and the name.
So I'll start with the name, marshaled in ranks, the rearrangement of words, because when we put our words together and we speak to someone, depending on how we arrange our words, we can either show love, we can show hate, we can be dismissive. So a lot about how we speak and acknowledge people comes from how we are arranging our words and how we give them importance with how we use them. So marshaled in ranks is about how we put our words together. It's the grammar, it's the meaning, it's the heart behind it, and the rearrangement of words, because we can stop ourselves in any moment. You know, those times maybe when you catch yourself about to say something and you say, do you know what? I'm going to rearrange that because I know that's my ego speaking, or it won't connect with the person. And then you rearrange how you're going to say it. That's what it means. That's what it means. Taking the time to be still and think about the words we're using with people and ourselves, how we're communicating. A lot of the poems in the book are about life, and some of them have titles based on the conversations we're having. So about oneness, about a mirror of reflections, about the whole world being a stage. But it's very much looking at who we are, maybe myself first of all, looking at who we are as a person, and then thinking to ourselves, are we blaming other people for how things are? Is there something in us that we need to change? It's about that transformation, like Denise was saying. How do we truly grow as a person first, so we can really be of service to somebody else and understand ourselves in every moment? So we're not having to be on our guard. We are just who we are. We know who self is, ourself, but we also recognize that self in other people, not just ourselves.
Yeah.
That's
I
beautiful.
think once we recognize that, we can have those conversations with people. People are more maybe open to have maybe the uncomfortable, the taboo subjects, as they may call them. Even working as a HR professional in an organization, it's wonderful to be able to have the conversations that people find uncomfortable. Like we were saying earlier, maybe people may not want to speak about racism because they feel uncomfortable about it. But I'm fortunate that because of the work that I've done on myself, my own healing, I can hold a space for people to talk about their feelings, regardless of what the subject matter may be. And I think the book helps people to, it's like holding up a mirror in front of them to say, yes, I get this. And maybe they'll be able to articulate it in their own words, but the poems, the book, the way they're arranged, maybe just to spark that interest for someone to maybe look deeper inside and remove those labels and remove those masks that the world, and I say the world because it's the media, it's the advertisers, everything tells us we have to be, or how we should be, how we should act. But it really is literally taking off all the cloaks that are hiding who we truly are, and it is, a divine person that's part of a collection from one. We all part of one, and we may have different roles to play within that oneness, but it's recognizing that in every single person that we meet. And I'm hoping that's what the book helps to bring out from everybody.
And I know you're going to jump in because he had to. Monkey, we're going to say something before. What we're going to jump in.
No, there was a person in a van outside playing their music all loud. I was trying to get.
This is what we say. It's real deal. It's real talk for real. Sometimes,
I
people
was about to get up and go tell Tammy to tell him to turn his music down, but then he left.
For real. I love it. So, we it was so funny because I really had this whole intention. We're not going to really have to talk about racism today. We're going to talk about how books and writing inspires, but it always has that way. You cannot talk about the Black experience, maybe UK or maybe United States, without talking about the real.
I got a couple things.
Okay, go ahead. Go, brother. Please.
First of all, you two are so beautiful.
Yes.
When you came on, first thing, you're so beautiful, just glowing and everything. Secondly, I'm gonna get both of you guys' books. For sure. I'm ordering them today.
Okay, you have to wait a minute.
When is your book coming out, though? It's coming out. We're like in a holding pattern. I think, Sovel, you're the only person that has a book out right now that's on Amazon. But the three of us, we're in a holding pattern right now. We're like
this year, but we just don't know.
It's coming though, y'all.
I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
Timing,
go
isn't
ahead.
it? The books, maybe your books have a moment to be read, to be seen, and sometimes it's divine timing when something is out there, when the people are ready to read it and be able to take it in and digest it rather than just ignoring it.
Right.
Sometimes it's divine timing.
Yeah.
You know what they say, right? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and a lot of times books.
Yeah. No. Yeah, because in regards to my book, it feels like it's it's being birthed at the right time. I mean, time in terms of what's going on, because it kind of talks and shows and shares this journey and the story of my personal transformation. And Sovel, when you were saying about words as power and the words as healing and the truth of that, it was reminding me that in counseling, there's one of the main premises of counseling is that it's the difficult things that you need to talk about. That's where the work is. The things that you think you shouldn't talk about, that's the subject for therapy. And that seems to be that's been paralleled in all that ails the world at this moment.
We are all a part of the same publishing house. The company, it's called That Guy's House, created and led up by Sean Patrick. Big shout out to Sean. And it's a very unique situation, very diverse authors on in the company, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. I would love, maybe we can just all give a little shout out. And how has that been such an important part of getting your book out? And Sovel, you can start, and then we'll go to Denise, and then Monk, and then myself. We'll just a little shout out for That Guy's House.
I mean, I'm so grateful to Sean as an independent publisher, and being an author, now an author, so many, like I said, the diversity in regards to the authors that are there, but also we're all connected through what we are bringing to the public through our books. There's something there for everybody. And I think that's the really wonderful thing, because you realize that before this, I thought, are there other people who think like me? I wasn't sure. But then when I say found, not that it was ever lost, when I found That Guy's House, seeing all these wonderful authors just like yourself that are just like me, that realize how powerful we are and wanting to share that with the world, I thought, wow, this is where I'm supposed to be amongst these people. So it's given me personally an understanding of my own self at another level, because there's so much more out there that I need to understand. But it's also, you're part of a community where like-minded people come together through love of what they do and through natural love of the world, sharing what they know. And I think that is the most powerful thing that I found with That Guy's House, is that we all have something to share with everybody in the world. Yeah,
it's beautiful. Hey, what's your story with That Guy's House and Sean Patrick?
Just like my book, coming upon That Guy's House felt like it was just ordained. So many things came together at the right moment. And as Sovel was talking, I had this image of, Pinocchio, and that bit in the story when he says, "Can I be a real life little boy?" or something like that. And I think that's what I found at That Guy's House. It's real life human beings sharing real life stories and really going out on that limb and just receiving so much support and love. It's just been amazing. I'm so thankful for Sean and his mission. Before I found Sean, one publishing house told me, when I asked to get some kind of suggestions as to how to get my book published, they kind of said, well, to tell you the truth, because you're not a celebrity, I don't think anybody's going to want to read your book.
Yeah.
And that really infuriated me, because celebrities don't even write their own books. But anyway, but I feel like at That Guy's House, we're celebrities there because we are held up high in our truths, and championed in our truth. Yeah,
beautiful.
and that's pleasing to the eyes of the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go to Monk, one of our viewers just texted me and said, Sovel, you need to turn your volume up just a little tiny bit, so get a little bit closer. Like, I love live TV and I love it when it's on web, because people get hit you up right away going, turn it up. So we're going to turn it up. Monk, can you talk a little bit about, because I think we're in a special space right now that we get to have our language at that guy's house. Can you talk a little bit about Sean?
Let me take these glasses off because I don't need them anyway.
Oh.
I'm in that denial and all.
I love it. I love you, brother. I need mine, though. I need mine. Do you need yours? Sovel, you need yours?
Because I think I look better that way. So I'm
okay, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, dude. I didn't know anything about that guy's house. Skip pulled me out of the gutter. I had written this book. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. The interesting thing is, I was already written, and for some reason, I wasn't even pursuing anything. They were talking about, self-publishing came up, and it was just there. And I wasn't even in a hurry to do anything. And I think it happened this way because of how I met Skip. It was divine timing. So when I met Skip, it was the weirdest. I don't even know if you know the story, but I go on Insight Timer. He does guided meditations on Insight Timer. So I use it just as a timer. Mm-hmm. So one day I was like, I'm gonna hear somebody. I want to listen to somebody and do an extra meditation and just have it guided. So I seen Skip's big old head on there, right? So why
you always do that?
What stopped me was he's a black man on this timer, and there's not many black people there, right? So it got my attention. But that's not going to be the only reason why I'm going to listen to him. So I looked at what he was talking about, and it was something about love, I think. And I go, okay, that's right up my alley. Let me listen to him. Then I listened to him. I'm like, I really enjoyed that. Let me follow him on Insight Timer. So these are all the steps that got me to that guy's house. So after I followed him there, I seen he was part of the Agape Center in LA, that's my home when I go there. I said, wow, that's interesting. So I found him on social media, talked to him, had a conversation, told him I wrote a book. He said, I have books I've written already too. Let me introduce you to Sean. Sean, that guy's house, here I am. And when I met Sean the first time, it was just like, I was home. So that's how it happened. And so many steps had to happen. There had to be about 10 things in a row in sequence for me to get to that guy's house. I had to listen to God. I had to listen to the universe. That's why I was pausing and I wasn't pushing or rushing anything or forcing anything, because this was coming down the pipe.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I actually went to, when Monk and I started talking and I got a chance to read his PDF, I'm going, this is amazing. And I have the perfect publisher for you. And the reason why I knew it is because I had published 2 other books before. One was self-published and one was with a publishing company. And those 2 were not successful. And well, they were successful because they got out there, and I'm still using them. So they're successful in their own right. But what I mean was I didn't really fully embrace myself as an author until I got to that guy's house. I said, Sean, I got another book I'm working on. And everyone that told me, I gave him the idea about this book, except for my best friend, Bill. People were saying, well, it's been said before, and what are you going to say differently? And whenever someone said, what are you going to say differently to sell a book? I would go into a place of, oh, I'm not good enough. No one's going to listen to me. No one's going to hear my voice. I went to real deep depression around getting this book out. I met Sean and we had a conversation. It's like, your voice is valid. And once I heard that, it shifted. We went into place. We started getting this book going on. We had a first edition. We're actually having a second edition. But I felt so loved and so taken care of. And I felt like my voice mattered. And it didn't matter that I was going to say something different. It just mattered for me to be authentic. And that's why I chose that guy's house. That's why I chose to be work with Sean Patrick. And that's why I'm bringing everyone. I have so many people that are coming out of the woodworks right now and going, I have a book. I'm going, okay, go to that guy's house. Okay, I know the person. So I'm sending people left and right who have books. And I think it's very important that we understand that there are places that will say, yeah, I'll take you on, and they'll take so much from you and never get your voice out. And that's not the experience. I love that we have similar experiences there. So we were going to start off with the show by saying this, but there are books that inspire us all. There's authors and people, and Denise, who's your inspiration as an author?
That's always a tricky one. I mean, you know what? It's almost as well taking me into that space, Skip, of oh gosh, I better come out with a good one now.
There you go. I just want to hear your inspiration.
And there's so many. Who am I reading at the moment? Oh my goodness. Oh, I can't think of it at the top of my head at the moment. I'll say I am at the moment.
Okay, because you're in the process of getting your own book out. So you're writing your book and reading your book. So that's cool. That's so cool. Sovel, who's kind of your inspiration right now? What are you reading? Are you reading anything outside of your own poetry?
Yeah, I normally read outside of poetry, which is really weird. So people say to me, who's your favorite poet? I said, well, actually, I don't have a favorite poet because I didn't want my voice to be influenced by anybody else's voice. But one of the books I'm reading at the moment is the polyvagal theory by Stephen Progs, and he speaks about maladaptive behavior and how, you know, our childhood traumas and how it gets into ourselves and how we respond or react to different life situations. So it's a wonderful read in regards to, because it's very deep, and it's one of those ones when you read the first chapter, you think, okay, what have I read there? And you go, got it. And then it has to read maybe 2 or 3 times for it to really cement and then get your own meaning behind it. So you put it into your own words and say, I do understand that. But it speaks about our trauma, our experiences, and how we have maladaptive behavior, how it goes through to us in our adulthood as well. And I think it's wonderful because it's something that I can share, or at least have it in my mind when I'm doing something and think, oh, is that what it means? Or trying to recognize whether I recognize it in myself. Because when we're healing or we've gone through our own trauma, there may be still something there. And then these types of books, and even though they're very much on a medical level and for doctors, they do bring a lot of information forward as well.
Yeah. I remembered when you finished. So.
Oh, Sovel, that's amazing. Sovel, can you say the book again and the author? And I'm going to ask Wendy, who's online with us as well. Can she put that in the feed for us? What's the name of the book and the author?
So it's a polyvagal theory.
Polyvagal theory.
And it's from Stephen. I spelled PH. I think he spells his Stephen. And it's I think it's either Progs, Porges.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Interesting. Yes, Denise. Yeah.
I just remembered
somebody
I'm reading at this time, and I'm really soaking her up because I feel with my book coming out and it's going to take me someplace else in my self-transformation. You know, there's a lot of light and dark feelings, shadow feelings around. Brené Brown, Daring Greatly.
Oh.
Yeah, because that's what I'm doing.
Brown, Daring Greatly.
I'm daring greatly at the moment. Yeah.
It shifted me. And it allowed me to realize, if you have not read this book, everyone, it says that, you know, haters going to hate. But you cannot make a comment if your ass is not in the arena. You can talk about our show because we get haters, right, Monk? But shit ain't in the arena. So
haters gonna hate. That's their job. You always people that that's their job. Their sole purpose is that. People are not hating on you. You're not doing your job.
Yeah. So I really needed that wisdom at this time. So I'm really nourishing.
Think about all the family members or friends or close people that are supposed to be close to you that don't support you. They say you're crazy and say, "Oh, you're tripping." Or anytime you do something to better yourself, "Oh man, that's whatever. That's weird. That's this and that's." Look, when I started making this journey, it was a solo thing.
Yes.
Nobody was talking about it. I was nuts.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't drinking no more. I wasn't smoking no more. I wasn't hanging out. I was meditating. Became vegan. They didn't want no parts of that, right?
Yeah.
So there's always going to be people that do not like your growth. It's uncomfortable to see someone else growing when they're not. You see what I'm saying?
The vegan thing, especially the vegan thing. I went home for the first time on a holiday from school, and I was in practitioner training, and I just became a vegan. This is years ago, and I went home and said, "Mom, I'm a vegan." She goes, "Well, what religion is that now, honey?" And I went, "Okay."
Hey, don't laugh. I thought it was too. I didn't know what a vegan was. When I stopped eating meat, I thought it was some type of religion.
Oh my goodness. And so, but Monk, you gave me 2 books, and I'm going to put the first one up, and I just want, I want you to let people know, why is this inspiring you? It's called Let Go.
Yes.
What's that all about, brother?
Oh, I've read that.
Yeah. So David Hawkins, he talks about frequencies a lot and collective consciousness a lot, but he talks about all the emotional states and what level you're at if you're living with this emotional state. And as you grow through them, as you go up the ladder of emotions, like basically, if you say 1,000, that's like Christ, that's like Buddha. You know what I'm saying? So he has collective consciousness has been below 200. However, however he monitors our collective consciousness, say 200, and it barely went over 200 in the last 10 years or whatever. But every time it goes up to 300, 400, it'll go up to compassion, to the unconditional love. And these are different states that we can live in and how we process things from these states. What kind of characteristics we have from these states.
Wow.
We just really break it down on a physiological level, in a spiritual level, right? It's all encompassing. It's not just science. It's not just, spiritual. They're all connected.
But
So,
don't you believe that's
like my kind of book?
Yeah, Denise and Sovel, don't you believe that is the next movement of science is actually merging with spirituality?
Exactly, that's what it is.
Science, right, Monk? It's coming together, right?
Yeah, well, you got,
it has to. It has to.
Yeah.
So
that's
that
the only
was
way we're going to come together as well. That's something else that needs to happen at this time.
Right.
And he talks about conditioning and why we are the way we are, where we're stuck at, going from birth to 7 years old, how we're programmed and how we get in the program and how we get out of the program. And letting go basically is a form of letting things come up and seeing them exactly how they are, not trying to change anything, being with it, sit with it, make friends with it. Only then can you let it go. It talks about suppressed and repressed emotion. Every time we try to push it down, it's just there growing and growing. And repressed emotion is subconscious.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Powerful.
And we can do some practices to allow these things to come up. We don't even know. How many people have survived trauma and didn't even know the trauma happened?
Hey.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was so cool that the subconscious said, "Nah, you can't deal with that right now. We're going to push you here." So that was my last book I read.
Let's speak to this book here, The Power Verse. I've never heard of this book. And but you were just on to David Hawkins, brother. What's up with this?
Yeah, these are the last 2 books that I've read, right?
Wait a minute, Sovel, you're just going like this. What did you say?
I have the same book.
Oh,
Power versus Force.
Okay.
I'm late to the game, y'all. I gotta get these books. Denise, did you read these 2 books?
No, but I want to watch that. I want to read that Letting Go one. It's
That is deep. He brings in these books and then he has to go back and grab another book. Don't bring another book up in here. You are not allowed to bring another book up in here. That was your 2.
Here's the first one I read from him.
Okay.
Look at the title.
The Eye of the Eye. Yes, I get that. I get that topic already. But talk about this one right now. Talk about this one. Why this is so important.
Talk about power versus force, right? Force it doesn't have power. When you are aligned, that's power, right? So he breaks it down. He also talks about your frequency and vibration and the different emotions as well. But he's just basically breaking down anything that has power is not forced. Anything
ding! Do you see the light? Do you see the light bulb go off of my head right there? Oh, got it.
Because we got it so mixed up in the world.
Yes.
So just like when I said people try to force a stop on drinking, That's not power.
Mm.
Who you are and you heal from the drinking. That's
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in
it's
there.
an all-time book, though. I got to give it to y'all. This one is like a Bible for me. I read it like 5 times. It's called Oneness by Rasha.
Oh, okay. Oneness by Russia.
Oneness.
Rasha.
Russia.
Every time I read it, different parts of it speak to me. It speaks directly to me.
Yeah.
It really is. You open it up, the day you open it up, it's like, okay, whatever I just did yesterday, it deals exactly with that.
Oh gosh. I have so many books now. I've got even more lined
I know
up.
more books. So I gotta bring this in, y'all. I have this book that I read a long time ago, and you know those books that you read a long time ago and you weren't really ready for it, so you didn't understand it. Y'all, The Bluest Eye,
yeah,
Morrison.
Toni Morrison,
poet.
yeah.
Now, the reason why I'm giving this book is a shout out today and how it inspired me because I just finished it yesterday. And there is a space where she's talking about this experience, this Black experience of this town in the early 1900s and how the things that happened as part of the Black experience. And it moves into child abuse and it gets really powerful into incest and all that. But how Toni writes it, it's such a poetic force that allows you to feel the emotion. And I wept. At the end of this book. I wept. It talked about something that's really deep, child abuse and incest. It happens. And I allowed myself to go there where I be getting to the end of the book going, I'm not gonna cry. I am not going to cry. I let myself cry.
Yeah.
Anytime you say you're not going to cry, best believe
I cry all the time. I cry all the time when I say that. But Toni was the first person and poet. Because my first book was a book of poetry, and Toni influenced me in my own personal way, negative and positive. I would read something from Toni Morrison and go, "What an incredible poet!" Or Maya Angelou, and going, "If I could write poetry like that, oh my God, I'd be writing poetry every day." And then the next thing I know, I started writing my own poetry, and then I I published my first book of poetry. Very powerful learning. The next one here is Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me. If y'all don't know this brother, he talks about going from a place of the streets of Baltimore, going to Howard University, also where Toni Morrison went to Howard University. Also, Kamala Harris went to, it's a diaspora of Black people going to an historically Black college and university. And it talks about that journey, but him leaving America, going to France for the first time. And he writes this as poetry. It's very poetic, as a letter to his son, preparing him for the racism and the things that he will experience in this existence. So shout out to him. And I got one more I want to share right there. Mom, turn your phone off.
I put it on sleep, and my daughter loves doing it.
Blaming your child.
It's so funny. Blame the child. Y'all, have y'all been watching? I mean, I don't know if y'all have watched HBO or if you have TV or not, but this new show called is Lovecraft Country. And, I'm a big horror fan. I know I go from spirituality to horror. I just have always been that way when I decided to follow my path of spirituality. I talked to Reverend Michael one time saying, I love horror films. It's okay, great. I go and see him too. It's dark. You recognize what it is, but that's not the truth. So I'm still a big horror fan and I love it. Lovecraft Country is this book by Matt Ruff, and it's created by the TV show on HBO by Misha Green, who did The Underground, but it's also J.J. Abrams and also Jordan Peele. And I was hooked the very first episode. So much, I said, this is coming from a deep place. I went and got the book and started reading the book. I am simultaneously watching the series and reading the book. And I said, I would never do that. I got to do the book first. It's a beautiful experience, but it's taking me out of my head of what I'm seeing. But then this book, is about the Klan. It's about racism in the 40s. It's just, I can't explain it. It's releasing something. It's educating me, and that's what I believe book does. Books will do that. Yeah. So we're at the very end of our show, and I just want to one last statement that we can say about the importance of writing and your voice and what books have done for you. And let's start with Sovel.
So writing and books, I think for writing, when you own your voice, you know, that little voice that you hear in your head, when you can bring that through and get it on paper, that's your true self speaking. It's not being influenced by anybody else. You own it and you understand it, because it's a bit like the higher voice wanting to come through to you and just getting out of its way and allowing it to come through. I think the power of books is that when you find something that you can resonate with, it can help you to uncover more about yourself, to understand yourself, but also to understand others as well, because it isn't just about us, it's about everybody. And so books have that power, so to connect with more people on various levels.
Yeah. Oh, that's powerful. Thank you. Hey, Denise, what is the power of books? What does it do for us?
It's similar to what Sovel says, really. Books can almost become family, especially when you don't have a family. Or it could help you to find your family, or it could point the way towards your family. And what is family? Home, you know. So a good book is all that. And then sharing your story, writing your life with pen, you know, and sharing that and finding home there is, I can't even put it into words, but because it has made so much in my life and so much in my journey, that it's hard to separate from and put it so nicely across. Yeah. But it's everything. It has been everything in my life.
Oof. Oh, and family, that just touched me here, because these characters that are behind me and these authors, they're my family.
Yeah.
They're people that helped me to grow up. So I love that. Hey, Monk, what's the answer with books, man? Why books? Why should we read? Why should we be reading, yo?
Check this out.
Yes.
Here's a fun fact about me.
Okay.
I never read a book from cover to cover till this last decade.
Wow.
Not even in school, nothing. If I had a test, I'd be like, what's the book about? You know what I'm saying? I'll skim through it, whatever. Didn't want to read for entertainment, didn't want to read to learn, didn't want to read for anything. When I started doing my spiritual practice, when I started doing my meditation, just organically, books started to interest me.
Yes.
And I started to read every single day. And not because I had to, and it's because I wanted to. Right? And the books that would come through, it wouldn't be an accident. It would seem like a coincidence, but it would come through. Example, I was at the laundromat just about 3 months ago, and the book sitting there, no one's there, and it's sitting there. And I had really an issue with Jesus because of the way I was raised in church.
Yeah.
Anti-church. And even when I came back around with my meditation, I was still anti-Jesus, anti-church. And there was a book sitting there. Nobody else was in the line room. And it said, The Gospel According to Jesus. For believers and unbelievers. Unbelievers, not non-believers. People that used to believe that no longer believe. And it broke it all the way down. Who he really was. How he was an enlightened human being, how the stories in the Bible were twisted, just really broke it down to me like, this dude was just tapped in. He was just living his best life with his highest self, and he was going around spreading this love and this light.
Yeah.
Stories I was told, they were all just stories. You know what I'm saying? So it changed my perception. This book showed up for me to say, get over yourself and really know what this enlightened human being that walked this planet was. And stop picturing him as what the church told you he was. So it was crazy. I said, I'm just gonna, no one's here. This book is free. So I just took it. So forward, I just I never thought I was going to write a book.
Mm.
Read the book. You see what I'm saying? So like Sovel was saying, when I started to write that book, it was like I was being a channel. It would come, I could write for 3 hours and it seemed like it would be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, you ever had the runner's high where you just running and your body just takes over by itself? Well,
Yes.
my hand was taking over. I was just.
Yeah. That happens in writing.
Right. I mean, the importance of books is everything to me now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I understand when when that comes through you, it carries that energy onto that paper and onto that book and onto other people that read that book.
Yes.
That's powerful.
Nourishment.
Thank you, Monk, for sharing that. And one of the last things, my mic drop moment about this, about reading and writing. I grew up as experiencing severe dyslexia. And I always heard, well, why can't you read? And why are you dumb? And doesn't make sense. And I took on that title into adulthood, always thinking I was dumb. Always thinking that was stupid, always thinking that my voice didn't matter. And writing that first book was me overcoming. Once I got to Agape International Spiritual Center here in LA, my teacher, Michael Bernard Beckwith, said, you can do whatever you say you want to do. And I started to believe it. So writing the book was me getting over my first book, getting over that self-imposed title that I've had all my life, most of my life at that time. So I wrote my first book to get over that. The second book was a place of being a vegan and knowing that that's what I wanted to tell people about. This third book was an essay of my experience. It truly saved my life. Writing saved my life. Reading saved my life. And like you, Monk, it wasn't until I became an adult that I read a book from cover to cover. But I realized that I can be transported to space no matter what I'm reading if I allow myself to go. So this has been healing for me, everyone. Thank you so much. Let's do some shout outs of where people can find you. Sovel, where can people find you? How can they follow you?
So thank you for the opportunity. So they can find me on Instagram under Sovel Spoken. They can also find me on SoundCloud, where I interview guests based on the poems from my book, and under Sovel Spoken, Marshaled in Ranks, a podcast. And they can also find me on Facebook, Marshaled in Ranks, a podcast, and on my webpage. That's not Marshaled in Ranks, but Just Being Me is the web page as well. They can find me. They can put my name in. There aren't many people called Sovel.
Right, I did that. Everything came up. Oh, thank you so much for being here. Denise, where can we find you?
Thank you.
Okay, well, you can find me at Back to Love on Twitter. My blog, From the Heart Soul, at wordpress.com/. My website, innersideout.net. Yeah, and that's all that's coming into my head at the moment.
Yeah, we'll drop everything into the feed. I tell you what, I had been planning to do that. I should have got into the feed earlier on, but we'll drop it into the feed and comments for sure. Monk, we're pretty easy now. Where can people find us and then get all our information? Where? It's easy now.
Don't call me easy, okay?
Wait a minute, hold on, wait. You didn't even see my shirt today. You didn't see nothing that says, be careful or you'll end up in my sermon. Now, that's what you be careful now. So what you got to say now? What you got to say?
Don't call me easy. I'm hard to get. So you have my paper that I'm looking at to try to tell you where you can find me. So IG is Monk_Eternal. Facebook, Monk Eternal. Facebook also Vegan Monk. 2 Black authors. YouTube, Monk Coleman. Twitter, JCC Monk. Website, monketernal.com.
Okay, see, let me tell you something. Why did we create 2blackauthors.com so we can make it easy for people to drop into 2blackauthors.com? You'll find exactly where Monk is. We did that for the ease of grace for you, my brother.
When?
Last week. Our new website went up last week.
Why didn't you tell me? You always leave me out the loop.
Now I'm putting off the hat. Glad you
okay. Calm down.
I know. Look over there go the brothers. There they go.
And they're off.
Y'all, you can find us at twoblackauthors.com. You follow us at Two Black Authors everywhere. And of course, you can find out where Monk and I are doing our training and coaching and inspiring the world to read and to write and doing their thing. Also, big shout out to Sean Patrick at That Guy's House. You can go to thatguyshouse.com and find out how you can get your voice into Word and in beyond that too, because this web show that we're doing right here comes out of that as well. So if you want a bigger voice, we're going to create some stuff for you. So check it out. Great place to be. Only thing I guess got to say is this has really been healing for me, especially how we started off the show. I love you, Monk. You know that. I love you, Sovel. I love you, Denise. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for coming on. It was an hour went by like it was 5 minutes.
It always does now. It always does. So, but thank you so much. Peace and blessings, everyone. We guys will see you next week. Peace out.